Today we'll be seeing the unveiling of API security nets. A little bit about me. I am an associate security consultant at Securelayer 7. It's both software and product based company as well. And I'm also a part-time bug bounty hunter, and I've found several bugs in companies like Sony, Edmodo, Red Bull, Mail.ru, etc. And I also have a small little YouTube channel, and I go by the name of Rogue SMG. So that was something about me. Now let's dive right in. So what is the agenda for today? We'll see what are APIs. We'll be seeing why are APIs everywhere. We'll be seeing the security issues we have with APIs, and we'll be seeing some bugs and some proof of concepts on what and where to look for API security issues. And then we'll see if you have some questions. We'll be answering that as well. So yeah, let's get started. So what is an API? So API is an acronym for Application Programming Interface. Well, it is basically a set of routines, protocols, and tools for building software applications. Like this is the exact definition. So think of it like a waiter, like right. You are the client, and it takes whatever request you give to it. REST API takes it and throws it to the database. The database then processes the data and then returns a response back to us. So just like a waiter, it takes your request to the restaurant, to the chef. The chef makes your dishes and it gives you back a response. That is your food, right? It works exactly like the same way. And it uses both HTTPS and JSON. So the whole request and response will be in JSON. So this was a brief introduction about API. Now we'll see why are APIs everywhere. You see nowadays, wherever you'll see there are a lot of APIs being used, and for a good reason. So why are APIs everywhere? So basically, there are three reasons why APIs are being used everywhere, and they provide much better security, they provide much better speed, and they provide a better level of scalability as well. So what basically happens in an API? It helps you divide the whole application into independent services or chunks. Well, usually in our monolithic applications, the whole application was usually a single chunk of code. And whenever there was any update or any new functionality that needed to be added, then there were a lot of changes you needed to make because it was a single chunk of code. And to edit that chunk of code, you can imagine it's a lot of tedious work. With APIs, everything is divided into small chunks. So for example, there is module for, let's say, login, and there is a module for dashboard. So both of those modules are independent of each other. So if there is any issue with the login module, the whole application won't fail. Only the login module will fail, and it won't affect the dashboard or any other module as well. So that is also another a great advantage of APIs, that it won't, any issues in one of the APIs won't affect your whole application. It will just affect that particular functionality itself, right? And another use is like, let's say there's a third part there, let's say a third party access certain services or part of services without having to give access to the code of database. What we mean by here is there are a lot of functions, like for example you will see login with Google or login with Apple on a lot of websites, right? So it doesn't mean that the application whatever you are accessing gave the whole database, gave the whole code or her whole database to the third party companies like Google or Apple. No, they just provide their APIs, and with the help of APIs, they only give access to those certain areas or certain parts of the application which they are allowed to or which they want to. So this gives a way to modularize and expand your integrate a lot of services into your application without actually having to share your code or share your database with third parties. So that's where security comes into picture. And yeah, APIs are basically everywhere. Every time you visit a page online, you are most probably interacting with an API. Any shopping apps, any shopping websites, or gaming websites, or social media, etc. APIs are basically being used everywhere these days. So this was why APIs are everywhere. Now let's see the security issues with API. There can be a lot of issues with API, but we'll mostly see and cover OASP API security top 10 for today. And from those, we will see the most common and critical ones. So on the left hand side, as you can see, these are the API issues, and on the right hand side, it's their meaning, or you can say web equivalent of that particular issue. So it's broken object level authorization. Sorry, and that is basically IDOR. The second is broken user authentication, and that means like authentication issues where you are able to bypass, the authentication process or the authentication mechanism of the web application. Third is excessive data exposure, and that is essentially information disclosure. This basically means that for any particular functionality or any particular module, if the data being thrown to the user contains more information than they should actually be seeing, then that is information disclosure, excessive data exposure, right? Next is lack of resources and rate limiting. This is basically DOS and brute force as we see in web. After that, there comes broken function level authorization, and this basically comprises of access control issues where there might be privilege escalation, or a normal user might be able to perform functions of an admin user and stuff like that. Next is mass assignment. Now, this is something different. Like what happens here is you are able to initialize or override server side variables. So we'll see more of that, more examples and POCs about that later. And last is injection. So it's basically the same types of injections like XSS, SQLI, server side template injection, and everything. Whatever is there prevailing in web, that very well can be, the same issues can arise with APIs as well, and there can be more in fact. So let's see what and where to look for. So before starting out, I would like to mention that though everything is divided and segregated into different types of issues, but you will see that all the issues which we'll see and all the POCs which we'll see, mostly everything will be very much related to each other, and there is very minor difference between different types of issues which we are seeing here, and you will realize it as we go further. So this was just to a quick tip, or you can say a general point to keep in note. So broken object level authorization. So this is basically just another name for IDOR. So here, for example, if there is any endpoint, let's say slash API slash personal details 1001, and 1001 is essentially your ID, right? But and 1002 is ID for some other user, and the application is just using incrementing numbers for different for providing user IDs for different users. So that is not a proper logic being implemented, right? And if you try to access slash API slash personal details slash 1002, that is any ID of any user apart from you, and if you are able to see the details of any other user, then that is essentially broken object level authorization. And this is as you can see, this is the same concept of IDOR, and this is one of the most common bugs prevailing in APIs as well. So that's one thing. And this can also happen not only in get request, but post or put request as well. So you can essentially, for example, here we have slash API slash update info slash one, and let's consider it as a post or a put request, and thus it helps to update your information or create new information like email, password, name, whatever that might be, just as an example. And if you are able to provide any other ID like 5, and you are able to update the information for any other user, then that's an issue right there. So that is broken object level authorization. And here let's see an example. So here this was a pentest project, and here as you can see, this there is a certain ID which is provided in the API endpoint, right? And we are fetching all the details of that particular endpoint. But what was essentially happening is whatever ID we provided, instead of 96, let's say we provided 97 here, then all the details of that particular ID and endpoint were fetched to us in the response. So this was very very you can say easy bug as well, but it has a lot of impact as well. So this was all about BOLA, or broken object level authorization. And another example is here, it's HackerOne report. And if you don't know, HackerOne is a bug bounty platform, and there are, a lot of good bugs being reported on that platform. And you could also check out the activity section to gain a lot of information or insights about how people are, submitting bugs, or what are the most common and prevailing vulnerabilities out there. So this particular report was on NordVPN, and it was rewarded, I guess, $1,000. And there was all that the attacker had done in this case. It was just change the user ID to any other user ID, and the attacker or anyone was able to fetch the order details of that particular ID. So this was, yeah, as you can imagine, it's pretty easy to exploit, but the impact is huge, right? You can see the details of orders of any particular ID. That can be financial stuff, or it might be containing the phone numbers or any personal details of that user as well. So that's Bola. Now the second one is broken user authentication. Now, the broken user authentication means, like, if we are able to circumvent or bypass the authentication mechanisms or authentication features provided by the web application or the APIs, then that is essentially broken user authentication. So, for example, the API is considered to be internal. There are certain APIs which are supposedly internal, and thus they do not require any authentication. So those APIs are like for internal use, and they are not being explicitly mentioned or called anywhere in the from the outside world, right? But and they do not require any authentication, because the developers have assumed that since they are not exposing those endpoints anywhere, they do not require any authentication for the endpoints, right? But by, let's say, simply brute forcing on those endpoints, if anyone is able to find those internal endpoints, then they essentially can just interact with those endpoints without any authentication, because that's just how it is designed and supposed to work, right? So that is one common mistake that developers are making. And you'll be surprised how many such instances you could find by just fuzzing or brute forcing on any particular API endpoint. So there's that. Now, second one can be static or weak auth tokens. For example, weakly signed JWTs. So, for example, if the if the application or the APIs are being authenticated using JWTs, but the implementation is not being proper, like the JWTs are not properly configured, and you could essentially remove the whole signature and change the algorithm to none to access any endpoint or any what you can say, any other users endpoints with just the same JWT token. So this was just a simple example. JWT can be a whole topic in itself, but consider that all the users might have the same API key or might be using the same phrase or keyword for authentication, and that's a issue, right? You can essentially just directly access any endpoint for any particular user. Now, tokens generated using default or a weak ID password, which can easily be guessed or found. So this is basically password and credential combination, like admin password and stuff like that, which can be easily guessed or brute forced. And auth tokens can also be exposed in URLs or page source or JavaScript files. So many a times what happens is, for testing purposes in the dev environment, the developers might have the developer might have hard coded the auth tokens or secrets, whatever the API keys or stuff is there, in the JavaScript files for debugging purposes. But while migrating to the production application, they forgot to remove the hard coded stuff from those JavaScript files. So it's now essentially publicly visible to the whole wide world, and anyone can fetch those auth tokens or API keys, which can, as you can imagine, lead to a lot of fuss. Anyone can access any endpoint. And last but not least, tokens are simply not validated. So there can be certain times as well that tokens are being provided, but they are not actually being implemented as well. So for example, let's say if you have a 12 character token, right? Let's just see. So if we have something like this, and this is a token, right? But what happens is if you provide another token of the same length, then it's not being validated. The token is not even being validated. Only the length of the token is being validated. So here, let's say if it has 10 characters, then only the validation is based on characters, right? So here, if even if you provide anything, but if it has 10 characters, then it is provided access. So this might seem very stupid, but yes, this is also a very common issue out there on APIs. So that's one thing. And just a second. So that was broken authentication. For example, here this was another pentest project, and here as you can see, we do not provide any access token. The header is removed from the request itself, right? But still, we are able to get the data about all the earnings essentially without any authentication itself. So this can be an issue. Now, similarly, this was another project, and here, as you can see, it's a user management and login endpoint, which basically gives us an access token to access further API endpoints. This was the first endpoint which needed to be called, and then you get an access token using which you could interact with all the further APIs in the application. Like this was how the flow was working. But the issue was even on providing only the email and a blank password, we are still getting access token in the response. So this was again all these bugs, as you can see, are pretty easy, you can say, but have a very huge or devastating impact. So this was another issue. And now again, there was a HackerOne report on Streepo where public and secret API keys were leaked in the JavaScript source code. So basically, there was JavaScript files in which there were certain API keys which were being leaked. So yeah, using which you can directly possibly interact with whatever APIs are being used by the application. So this was another issue. Now next is excessive data exposure. So API returns all the information and the client side code does the filtering. If accessed the API directly, oops. So what essentially I try to mean here is whenever an API returns all the information and the client side code does the filtering. So what it is mean by that is, let's say, let's open Sublime again. So let's say this is the endpoint, right? And what happens is whenever you call an endpoint, all the the first step is all the data about all users is being fetched, and then on the client side the filtering is done based on the ID, right? So based on the ID, so the ID provided is here, ID provided here is one, so only the user one data is being shown finally. But this filtering is basically done on client side itself. So this flow could be like there can be two endpoints. This is the first one that is called, and after that a second end, like for example, this is the first endpoint that might have been called, and this is the second endpoint. After getting fetching this endpoint might have called. So we are just getting the results of this endpoint, but that means we are able to access this endpoint as well, and just accessing this endpoint directly gives us data about all the users, right? So this is just you can consider it as a business logic issue as well. And this is not how the flow should be. Like all the authorization or all the excessive data exposure or any sensitive check should be done on the server side itself. And if anything is being done on the client side, then there's a very high probability, and not a probability, almost certainly, anyone can tamper with those stuff, like the client side security implementations. So that was an example. And uh, as we already discussed, like the developer assumes that the endpoint in question won't be accessed without some authentication token. But if that authentication is leaked somehow, then again you have an issue. So for example, it can be leaked from a JavaScript file, or it can be leaked through the Wayback Machine if it was archived by any crawlers out there. There can be a lot of possibilities, and if that API key gets leaked somewhere, and if someone has a hold of that API key, then the attacker can essentially access any endpoints. So this was the excessive data exposure, and this is why I mentioned that everything seems a very bit interconnected and interrelated, even though the categories are different, but the concept of certain bugs are very similar to each other in APIs, as you might have noticed. So here again, a hacker went report on Uber, and it was paid around $6,500. And here it was just a public API endpoint which was leaking mobile API token of a user just by passing the user's driver ID or UUID, right? And and again, this particular endpoint which was found. Uh, was vulnerable to Bola as well. So any other user's ID provided in the post parameter, they were allowing to retrieve the personal data from the victim's user account. So essentially, you can from the first endpoint, they are able to get the access token for any particular user, and using that access token, they were able to retrieve personal data from the user's account from any particular user. So this is a pretty devastating impact, right? Another one was on mail.ru, and an API endpoint at this allowed access to subset of order and client related information without proper authorization. So what happened here is broken authentication in the API client allowed retrieving sensitive information about clients. It was just potential attacker just needed to know a client's phone number for exploitation. So by providing the phone number of any particular user, he was able to get the PII of that particular user just by providing the phone number. So yeah, it was pretty again easy, but has a very huge impact. So this was all about that. Lack of resources and rate limiting. This is basically like no rate limiting itself. Like for example, there may be some upload or retrieve functionality which is which might be resource intensive, right? And if there is no rate limiting on those endpoints, then it might easily lead to denial of service. And brute force attacks, like the traditional brute force attacks, where for example the login endpoint or the forget password endpoint or the OTP endpoint is suffering from is there is no rate limiting implemented on that endpoint, and you can essentially perform brute force attacks and try all the possible combinations until you finally get the correct one. Now let's talk about broken function level authorization. Now, as we already discussed, admin endpoints or APIs are just hidden. And if you can figure out or find out the hidden methods or endpoint by brute force, JavaScript files, or whatever we discussed, then there's there's game over, right? It can, and it can be as easy as posting a get request. So if there is, for example, a get request to slash user slash one, and the if we try to do a post request on the same endpoint, then you might be seeing a different behavior, or you might be seeing that the data of other users are being fetched, or you might also be able to create your own user into the application. The possibilities can be endless because the implementations of how the developer might have implemented the code on the server side differs and depends from application to application and from developer to developer. So just by trying a simple thing like changing the HTTP method for a particular request might give you very interesting results. And for example, it can be something as easy as like slash API slash user me returns personal information for the particular user account. But calling an endpoint to API admin all underscore users return info for all the users in the application. So this was supposedly considered as an internal endpoint, but just by guessing these obvious parameters or obvious path of the request, you are able to fetch the PII of every user in the application. Again, another example could be just posting a request to like maybe API slash someone slash new, and providing an email and a parameter of like role is admin, then you might be able to create a new user with admin privileges in the application, which you might not be able to uh, achieve as such. So that's another thing. And this is broken function level authorization. Like the name can be confusing, but this basically is privilege escalation or authorization issues, as you can see, right? And the final is mass assignment. Now this is essentially just guessing and adding parameters to request. So for example, if a normal request is a post request to API user new register, and the JSON body just contains an email, the new request could be modified, and just an endpoint is added, just a parameter is added like is underscore admin is true, and essentially you might get admin access or admin privileges on this particular account. We just guess this parameter or and try to add a parameter like is underscore admin. You can, instead of true you could try one, is instead of is underscore admin you can try admin or is administrator. You can try certain combinations with certain common keywords which are supposedly being used in any application. This was mass assignment. And finally, injections. So this is basically the same concept, like XSS or SQLR template injections or any injections might be possible using APIs as well. And in fact, the possibility of such attacks using APIs is not significantly higher, but there are chances that you might not achieve that through the request from web application, but you might be able to achieve the same thing via APIs itself. So for why that might be, the web application might be having a WAF or a firewall, right, which filters requests from the client side before it reaches the backend server or the database. So if we try to provide any payloads or any injections, then the client side, the server side code might reject, or the firewall might not allow the request to pass through. But it is quite possible that the APIs might be directly interacting directly with the database, bypassing the whole firewall concept and reaching the request. Your all your requests hit the server without any validations. So you can easily get XSS or SQLi using those APIs. And that's basically it for the session. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you can ask me.